¿Sí es Guinan?
Yes, Guinan.
Guinan.
Oh, there you are. I'm terribly sorry, Paul.
No, all good, all good. I had
Okay.
some technical problems.
Is it? Okay. Paul, before anything, thank you very, very much for making a little bit of time of your schedule to be here with us. So, my name is Alfonso. I'm a chief editor and artist here at Studio Comics Press. I'm based in Canada. I'm based in Ontario right now.
Okay.
So I did an interview with Aaron about like a month ago, and then we're talking about comic books and all this stuff. He mentioned the interest on bringing you to the roster, to bring you to one of his interviews. Okay. And he was super excited. He was, like in a sense, extremely excited to talk to an author, to a creator, comic book artist as well. He says, like, I want to talk to him. The only thing is, like, there's a barrier on the language, right? So that they don't have the whole language to communicate it, so he needs assistance to it. So then, okay. I guess I will be the assistance today, Paul.
Okay. I want to apologize. It's very embarrassing for me to work on a Mexican project and a Spanish project without speaking Spanish. I'm gonna have very little. When I went to Mexico City, I had just enough language to be able to tell my Uber driver where to go. That's about it.
As long they say that, as long as Paul está mencionando, I'm gonna try. This is my first. Every time that I go to Mexico, I have to be translated with my wife says to my parents, to everybody over there. So then, bear with me here. I'm gonna try to do it. Right. It's not my first one. I'm a comic book creator myself too, so then it's not my first job description. So I'm gonna try to do this translation thing. Paul está mencionando de que también se siente un poquito como apenado en el sentido de que está haciendo ahorita un trabajo de investigación para una novela en México y no habla completamente español. Before anything, I was talking to Aaron, and they say that you are working in a actual comic book that is The Conquest of Mexico. Is it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
It is. It's a story that is unique. There's no story like it. It's almost like a science fiction story, like where two worlds meet. And so I think it's a story that the entire world should know, because the story changed the world. It completely changed the world. So I've been interested in this story for a very long time. And so here we are.
Paul está diciendo de que, en efecto, le pregunté yo a él que está trabajando ahorita en una historia referente a la conquista de México, y me dice que sí, en efecto, está trabajando en eso, y que hay mucha información que tiene la historia en referencia a la conquista de México, y es una historia que no tiene comparación con ninguna otra. Es una historia que tiene ciencia ficción, va a tener un poquito de todo, pero al fin del día esta historia de la conquista de México es una historia que cambió al mundo. I have to agree with that, Paul. The conquest of Mexico, the conquest all together, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of those historical things that came here to change everything, right? It changed everything. It's kind of like a butterfly effect. I want to call it like that, right? Mm-hmm. It's something that. However, one of the things that me being from Mexico, one of the things that I have learned is that there is so much richness in the Mexican culture on itself that you can make it any kind of story, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. You can make it any kind of story. I mean, it's just the approach, how you're gonna take it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't want to. There's a lot of stories that are, come from the culture that are mythical. Like, for instance, very soon we'll be seeing Maya and the Three from Netflix. We'll be seeing, these stories that are much more about the indigenous culture specifically. And I didn't want to do that story. That's not my story to tell. What I wanted to do is be like a combat correspondent for just the war years, 1519, 1521. And the story is not just the Aztecs. The story is also the Castilians. So for me, it's a story about a meeting of cultures. So I didn't want to step on any toes of the indigenous community. And in fact, I spent a couple of years reaching out to experts in Mexico, so artists, academics, activists, before I even started the story. And I'm doing the story in real time. You know, I put out a page and then people can comment on it and I can make changes. And I have a great honor of being, having consultants from INA, from the National Museum of Archaeology.
Yeah.
And so I'm very honored to have that trust in the community to tell even just this little narrow part of the story, because the conquest is hundreds of years. So I'm just doing the, as I say, I'm just the combat correspondent. I'm just doing this one war story.
Yeah. Paul está mencionando de que hay muchas historias que se quieren contar y hay muchas culturas que en referencia cuando se cuenta la historia de esta conquista hay diferentes historias con culturas y pequeñas culturas que obviamente como conocemos en la historia de México se incorporan dentro de este suceso. Él está enfocándose a las culturas que se vieron, las culturas que se trabajaron al momento. Además, él está muy afortunado de que tiene la ayuda y el apoyo de gente del INAH, gente del Museo, del Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia, si mal no recuerdo, es las siglas de la INAH, y obviamente ha trabajado con muchos muchos decanos y mucha gente que está relacionada con la historia de México, que son gente que conocen del tema y que saben mucho más de este tipo de cosas, y es la referencia que él tiene. Y eso es algo muy, muy bueno. I think that's fantastic, that you have this reference and all this stuff. Estoy diciendo que es muy bueno que tenga la referencia y que tenga el acceso, overall the access to the information. That is the important thing, because sometimes if you want to start telling the story of a culture, of a person, of a biography, you need to have that. That's the key issue. It's the key part of the whole thing. Le estoy diciendo que esa es parte importante de tener cuando estás armando una revista en este aspecto. Well, I have a question, and I'm terribly sorry. I mean, like, I didn't prepare anything. Like, as you noticed, I was asking around your last name so that I can check on your information online. This is something that, and like, again, I'm terribly sorry. This is my doing. I didn't like prepare for this time. But this is super cool because more like like we have a conversation on as on the fly per se, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a question, and then later on I'm gonna just turn the questions to maybe these guys on Mexico. They might have questions that they want to ask you, and then I'll try to do that as well. What do you think about like the previous all the previous attempts, well, not attempts, but the previous base that we have right now in regards to the same topic? As we know, they have tried many directors, many other comic book creators, storytellers. They have approached the Mexican conquest in telling the story in a different way. You're mentioning that the story that you're trying to approach is on a different point of view and everything. So I'm interested to hear what is your take in, for example, we're talking about like Classics Illustrated. That it's another big reference on the comic book, right? So what makes your story different than another story being told by any other comic per se?
Every story that I've seen in pop culture, so that Classics Illustrated comic, the recent Amazon TV show Hernan, and things like that. Those are all telling the story from Cortez's perspective, not from the Aztec perspective. And the reason for this is because one of Cortez's soldiers, Bernal Diaz, wrote a memoir, and it's very detailed. So there's a lot of information from the Spanish side of what happened. But people, I don't know why, maybe they're lazy, I don't know. they don't want to research the codexes that were produced with the help of indigenous people. I mean, the codexes were still supervised by Spanish priests, but at least they had collaboration with the locals. And so that's where I'm getting my information from. It's specifically the Florentine Codex, book 12. And that's, and no one really deals with that book. So that's what I'm using. So that's my take. That's my perspective.
There is another few reference on, I don't know, like I remember watching, like now that you mentioned, it's Cortez, right? The TV series?
Yeah, or Hernan, they call it Hernan.
Hernan, yeah, Hernan.
Yeah.
There's a few other visual references on movie references, more in the side of, let me see, what's the name? Mel Gibson, Apocalypto.
Yes, but that's not Aztec, that's Maya. And it's and it's not even Maya, it's like a mix of like
of a little bit of
it's not even, I think of it as a fantasy movie almost. It's a
Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah. And so it's very strange. There's only 3 movies that take place in 1519, 1521 in the Aztec territory in Nahuac. And that is a 1947 movie from Hollywood called Captain from Castile. And then there's a 2020 German film, not German, I'm sorry, from Spain, called Children of the Wind, which is, again, it's like the Mel Gibson movie. It's very fantasy, it's not real. And then there's a third movie, I forget the name, but it was made a couple years ago in Mexico about one of Cortez's captains, Ordaz, who climbs the volcano Popo to get some sulfur, right? And yes, right, yes. And so, but that's it. Just those 3. All other movies that you may have thought of or heard of, they don't happen in the 1519, 1521. They happen either before or after. So like there's this really great movie called Return to Aztlan, which takes place before the Spanish arrive. Yep. And it's a very good film. But it's I think it's very strange that there's so little
reference on it. Crazy. That's crazy. Le estaba preguntando, Paul, I'm going to translate all these big things. Okay. I'm going to try to make something here. There goes my codex translation there, buddy. Estaba hablando con Paul de cuál es qué es lo que él toma o cuál es su opinión acerca de películas que se hayan producido en referencia, como por cómics sean referencia, o elementos de referencia que haya en el mismo tema, como por ejemplo, le preguntaba acerca de los clásicos ilustrados. Me dice que son historias diferentes, que son partes diferentes de lo que está tomando él para poder acercarse a la historia en una mejor forma. Otra de las cosas que él también menciona, yo le comentaba acerca de, por ejemplo, hay otras referencias, como por ejemplo la película de Mel Gibson, la de Apocalipto, y él comenta de 3 películas que son referentes en esa misma fecha, del 15 al 19, 1915 to 1919, correct?
And 1919 to 1519 to 1521. So it's just 3 years.
So es de 1590 hasta el 95. Sí, que serían las referencias que existen en este tipo de documentos, ¿no? En referencias de que existen este tipo de documentos, y menciona los 3 tipos de películas, las 3 películas que se han producido en esta línea, ¿no? Aaron has a really good question, though. So, in the general population, talking about in Mexico, as he puts it on, The comic book is not seen as a thing that it will enhance history, or they will, gives you. It's more like an entertainment type of feel, like an outlet for entertainment, right? And it's kind of like how it has been taken for many years. With that being said, why do we put this material into that type of product, and what's going to be the best that people can get out of this with this material, or with these topics included as an entertainment comic?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's been a really successful movement of doing comics that for teaching purposes. So I've seen comics about biographies of famous people, comics about science, about history. So I think it's a very good tool because it's visual, and people respond, I think, better to information when there's a visual that goes with it. So in my comic, I not only am trying to do accurate visuals. So for instance, I'll research in a codex what people wear so that you get a really authentic understanding, visual understanding of what it looked like. And then for the text, I try and, I dramatize the history. So I have people talking with each other. But at the end of every episode, I have endnotes. So I have notations, like footnotes, for every page, showing where the history comes from, the sources that I used, the references that I used. And so I want there to be enough academic material in the endnotes for it to be used as an instructional tool in classes. So that's my goal, is for students to read this, not just the general, of course, the general public, of course, but also for students.
Paul está diciendo que a últimas fechas el cómic se ha utilizado para, por ejemplo, cosas como enseñanzas, como biografías, como lo que platicábamos al principio, ¿no? Formato de ciencia. Pero lo más importante que él menciona acerca del cómic es que el cómic es una forma visual de poder pasar el mensaje alrededor. Entonces, él está incluyendo toda esta información, la forma visual en referencia hasta inclusive la vestimenta de los personajes que van en el cómic. Él está basando toda la información directamente desde los códex que él tiene acceso para poder armar esta información. De la misma forma, bueno, lo que está incluyendo con cada revista es de que está poniendo unas notas al final de cada una, de donde, sobre todo como una, ¿cómo le dicen? Como
una referencia bibliográfica, ¿no? Como una
bibliografía. Exacto, como una referencia bibliográfica en la cual, bueno, esta información viene acerca de esto, esta información viene aquello, pero lo más importante es las notas académicas que puedas tú encontrar en referencia con este tipo de material. Y obviamente este tipo de material, como lo menciona, puede ser bien utilizado como un material institucional, en el cual puede ser utilizado no nada más para entretenimiento, pero al mismo tiempo puede ser utilizado como una referencia educativa para ese aspecto. Okay, Aaron is asking, like, for example, like making a comic, we know that it's a time-consuming challenge all the time, especially like if it has like your basic references. Thinking about a comic with the grade that you're working on, that it requires a lot of attention to detail, and not only that, a lot of research.
Yeah.
And my hats off to you, my friend, because I cannot believe it's beautiful. Like it's just the thought to have that type of thing. It's great. But how long it has been taking you to get to that point? Because we know that we can pick up a comic, you read it, that's it, right? So how long is taking you to go to this point that you are right now? For how long you've been working?
Well, I've been working for about 3 years, but last year and part of this year, the pandemic just it took me. I I don't have the words.
Change things around.
It was too much. But I am starting up again. And so the specific answer would be, it takes almost a week to do just one page. If you count the research, the writing, the drawing, and all, the coloring. I mean, actually the coloring is very, very intense, because there's all these patterns on the clothes, there's patterns on the walls, and you can't just, it's not random. You can't just throw up some kind of graphic on the background. Everything has meaning. So it reminds me of like people, like kids, like teenagers in some foreign country wearing t-shirts, like say for instance in English, that doesn't make any sense. That, you know, that like says something like ridiculous. It's like, I don't want to be in that situation. I want to make sure that everything is correct. Everything has all the symbols are correct. And so that takes a long time. So I have accepted that this project will take another 6 years, maybe maybe five more years. It'll be a while. It'll be a while. Yeah. It's I'm old. I'm at the end of my career. So this is my great work. You know, my what they call my magnum opus, you know, the great work. So that's fine.
Paul, is there...
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, you gotta finish this, buddy. Paul está mencionando lo siguiente. Él dice que ha llevado más o menos como 3 años en llegar hasta donde está en este momento. Él empezó hace un año, el año pasado, con la onda esta de la pandemia. Ya saben que viene, va, baja. Toma más o menos, fue algo muy raro, pero ya retomándolo en referencia otra vez al trabajo ya de entrada, ya está tomando el regreso, más o menos para que se den una idea. Cada página de cómic que él está trabajando le toma más o menos una semana por página, one week, una semana por página, y obviamente esto es obviamente con él la escritura, la dibujada, buscar las referencias, estar seguro de que las referencias que estás utilizando son las referencias adecuadas. Pero lo más importante, dice que es una cosa que le llama mucho la atención, son los colores, la coloreada. El meterle los colores a la página es muy, tricky, tiene su truco, pues, ¿no? Porque tú bien sabes cómo las culturas antes de la conquista, y los trajes son muy coloridos, los trajes llevan muchos detalles, y obviamente esos colores llevan un significado, y tiene razón, ¿no? Todo el significado que viene con los colores, los penachos, me imagino, con toda la vestimenta que llevan, cuestiones en la pared que también tienen motivos de colores, y cada color que utilicen es un significado muy específico, y es algo que no es random, no es puesto así como al azar, ¿no? Es una cuestión que es más detallada, de que obviamente se lleva más tiempo al momento de colorearse, pero queda tiene un significado. Cada detalle que está metiendo cuando se colorea tiene un significado. No es como esas cosas en las cuales tú te pones una playera y la playera del personaje está en una situación en la cual realmente no tiene nada que ver. Él está metiendo toda la información de todos esos detalles, inclusive la coloreada, para que pueda ser funcional al momento. Todos los símbolos, toda la simbología tiene que tener su color, lleva su detalle, pero en un aproximado es unos 6 años que crea que eso es lo que va a tomar de principio a fin. 6 years.
And because I do it in real time, so I put a page out, and then next week I'll put. I haven't put out pages lately, but I will begin again very soon. So when I put these pages out, people will send feedback, and sometimes I'll make a mistake, and I'll have to go back and take time. This is more time. Go back and fix mistakes. So, for instance, I made a mistake about the conquistador helmets. You know, the ones that we think of with the points and the crown.
Yeah.
But Cortés didn't wear those helmets, so I had to change all that. And then also, just right now, I'm working on a scene that takes place in the House of Eagles. It's a meeting place for warriors next to the Templo Mayor. So the Templo Mayor and the House of Eagles. And I was working on it, and I was talking with a friend from INA, archaeologist, and I was asking him questions, and he told me about these murals that I got wrong. So I have to now go back and change these murals in this house and redraw it. So it's not just drawing the comic. Sometimes I have to take the time to fix the comic.
You are reconstructing. This is my way. You are basically reconstructing the story that was never told, right? That part of the story that was never told, and you are literally just finding the pieces hidden in scattered everywhere. That is wow.
And one of the advantages of doing the outreach of connecting with these experts and these people in the community is that I get this information that I could not get in a book.
Anyway,
so they'll send me academic papers, you know, that maybe they appeared in some science journal or something, maybe, but they'll send me archaeological drawings of the site that I could never find in a book. So now I have these archaeological drawings with all the details, all perfect. And so it's like, thank you.
Oh boy, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I feel very honored, very honored.
You should, though, because that access to that type of information to document a book,
yeah.
that if you need some piece of information and then you have the access to the main source,
right,
who has this, oh, wow, that's fantastic. And now I'm getting excited to see this book live. O sea, I was talking, le estaba hablando con él, estábamos hablando de, él pone una página cada semana, o lo ponía una página en sus redes cada semana, y la ponía afuera, pero el elemento de challenge, el elemento de challenging, es la palabra...
El desafío,
El desafío. El desafío de esto es que, por ejemplo, él pone la página y cuando se pone la página, él abre las opiniones al público en general, en la cual el público en general puede revisar lo que él está dibujando, y muchas veces él lleva más tiempo corrigiendo los errores que él ha creado en referencia a esos detalles que no están 100% correctos o no están muy accurate, la palabra accurate, muy correctos o muy pegados a la realidad. Entonces lo que tiene que pasar es que tiene que cambiar todos esos detalles, redibujar algunos detalles para que la página sea correcta, para que la página sea en una forma correcta, ¿no? Entonces eso es algo muy interesante porque luego también hay gente que, por ejemplo, estaba hablando recientemente con un amigo que tiene él en el INA, por ejemplo, estábamos hablando de los helmets, de los cascos que se utilizaban anteriormente. Todos pensamos que los cascos que utilizaban eran los puntiagudos, ya sabes, con la puntita por acá, pero él hablando con uno de sus amigos que tiene ahí en el INA, en el Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia, se dio cuenta de que, por ejemplo, esos cascos, Hernán Cortés nunca utilizó ese tipo de cascos. Fun fact, ¿no? Es algo muy interesante. I didn't know that. Eso es un caso muy interesante, ¿no? De ese tipo de cosas. Y casos, por ejemplo, como murales en el Templo Mayor, que él tiene dibujado uno, encontraron unos detalles que no existen, que serían muy ficticios. Entonces, obviamente, pues habría que redibujar, ¿no?
Sí.
Entonces, lo que se lleva, todo ese tipo de información se lleva, se maneja en esa forma, ¿no? O sea, él tiene el acceso con ese tipo de gente, ¿no? Con académicos, sobre todo, ¿no? Que es lo más importante. Y ese acceso a esa información que le llega a él, es información que no puede encontrar ni en libros, que no lo pueden encontrar en internet, por más que le googlee, tú no lo puedes encontrar, porque obviamente esa información le llega directamente por gente de INAH, llega gente que conoce, ¿no? O sea, la fuente de la información directa. Aaron is mentioning that there is a few things, right? This is the work that you do, the labor that you put into the research, the labor that all the time consuming that you have into knowing, including about the helmets, even the penachos, those feather hats
Right.
that they used to have. I don't know the translation to penacho.
Headdresses,
Penacho,
headdress.
yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, headdress. Yeah. There was many things that nowadays, due to the opening of this dew of information that we have nowadays, most of these things that it has been history for many, many years now have become a myth,
Yes.
right? And most of these myths,
That's
like
good. Bueno, yeah, yeah, it's a myth. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, sure. Yeah, this is the most important thing to me is to destroy these myths. So the big ones are, as Aaron was saying, that the Spaniards were thought of as gods, and that's not true. That Cortez was returning a prophesized return of Quetzalcoatl. That's not true. That Cortez and Malintzin had a romance. That's not true. That's not true. She was no, that's not true. Sorry. I apologize. Or also like the omens that Montezuma, like the things like people like woman wandering the streets or the comets in the sky or whatever. The omens are not true. So there's a lot of myth to destroy in this story. Now it like some people are like you were very disappointed about Malinche and Cortez not having that. After the fall of Tenochtitlan, years later, Cortez raped her and she had a child, Martin Cortez. But that was not part of the war. That was not part of any romance. So
yeah, that was completely different. The thing is, like, this is the thing. We got on the history books many years. Those myths become history.
Yeah.
And that history becomes part of, the thing that you tell your kids, and the kids tell their kids, and so on and so forth. It goes for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
And this is where it goes, right? Like how many of those parts of the history that we've been told on the history books are they really history facts? How many of other ones are just myths? We don't. Well, this is crazy. Anyways, I want to translate this. Él estaba diciendo, le estaba comentando acerca de los mitos que existen en referencia a todo esto, y él dice, en efecto, o sea, nosotros lo que él quiere hacer es romper esos mitos que existen en referencia a estos temas, ¿no? Por ejemplo, como la onda esa de Quetzalcóatl, de que era un dios, él mencionó lo mismo de que los aztecas pensaban que los españoles eran dioses. Es una onda que está fuera del mundo. Y la onda esta de que Cortés y la Malinche eran una pareja. Y entonces fue cuando yo dije, no, pero ¿por qué va a hacer eso? Y él dice, bueno, es que es un mito de los más conocidos, ¿no? En los cuales nosotros sabemos que, bueno, Cortés y la Malinche eran una pareja, pero eso no es cierto. O sea, es una cuestión que pasó, pero en un contexto completamente diferente, ¿no? Y obviamente, unless I want me to spoil them the story, I can tell them the story, but I will let them wait for the real story. Pero porque no les quiero romper el sueño, bueno, no quiero pasar la historia. La historia que pasa entre Cortés y la Malinche es una historia una historia más de abuso, ¿no? Que fue una historia más de historia, como nosotros la conocemos, ¿no? Entonces,
actually, bueno, no, keep going.
Y por ejemplo, la onda de que había muchos de esos, ¿cómo les llaman? Como historias que teníamos nosotros conocidas, él está tratando de incorporar, está tratando de buscar la mejor manera de ponerlas en referencia correcta, ¿no? The work that you are developing with this graphic novel, with this work that you're doing, it seems like you are getting all the facts and data and all the information in a really strict, or he mentioned it, riguroso, that is a word to be like really clear and really precise in every single detail that you're trying to do. The work that he does around, he has something that is also, it talks about the same topic, but he has more an approach in a superhero type of thing. It has an approach in a different kind of way. So in between two of them, it seems that maybe this is this work that that is developing right now for two different sources. One between Aron that is more in a directed to maybe young kids, or maybe like an introductory level reader in a sense, and then it will be that maybe your product is more for a specific pouch or a specific group, or more like a person who is more interested in the story of Mexico, or how, what kind of reader is your novel directed to?
Well, because of the subject is pretty dark. It's rough. Yeah. So we will be showing violent scenes, you know, like massacres, you know, and people being killed with edged weapons. I mean, it's going to be rough. And then there was, you know, we cannot avoid the fact that Malintzin, on her very first night that she was given to the Spaniards, well, she was raped by this captain named Puerto Carrero. And so we have to show these things, but I don't want to be too graphic, because the more you show, the older the audience needs to be. So I try and have basically just two rules. One, no depiction of genitalia. I mean, I will show a female breasts, but no depiction of genitalia. And no use of the word fuck. I mean, I use shit maybe, and that's about it. And then the rest of it, I just have to try and make sure that, I don't know, maybe here in the United States, we have like middle schools, like before you get to high school, maybe like starting with teenagers, maybe like you know, like when you're a teenager, I guess. But mainly it's for like high school, college, and a general audience. And I would like to see it, I would like to try and make sure the material is not too controversial, so that it can be sold, not just at like a college bookstore, but like a museum gift shop. Like my greatest wish is for it to be sold in a museum bookshop at the National Museum of Anthropology or the Templo Mayor Museum. I would love to see it in that gift shop. So it's tough, it's difficult, because there will be violence, there will be sex, but it's, so I've been thinking about this a lot, because I want it to be as wide as possible, but I don't want to avoid the dark, you know, the rough parts of it, you know.
Yeah. La historia que está contando él, Aaron, la historia que está contando él es una historia más oscura, ¿no? La historia oscura de la conquista. Y obviamente, por ende, es una historia ya más oscura. Es una historia más violenta, ¿no? Tiene más violencia, hay muchas escenas de armas, hay muchas escenas de peleas. Hay obviamente la escena, la primera noche que la Malinche es entregada a los españoles, entregada a este Carrero, la Malinche, bueno, pues es violada por Carrero, ¿no? Entonces, una regla que él sabe es que sabe perfectamente bien de que entre más detallado sea el trabajo de investigación y más detallado cuentas tú este tipo de cosas, más el público consumidor tiene que ser obviamente de más edad, ¿no? No puedes tú dárselo a un chavo general, a un chavo de 15, 16 años, bueno, no sé, chavo de edad, en el cual no tenga las funciones, obviamente debe de estar de edad, ¿no? Hay cosas que él va a estar utilizando dentro de la forma gráfica que él está queriendo contar esto. Por ejemplo, él va a tener escenas en las cuales va a haber bustos, ¿no? Va a tener escenas dibujadas donde va a haber bustos, va a haber desnudos. En cierto aspecto no va a haber uso de los genitales, obviamente ya sabes cómo está la cosa esa. Hay una regla que es no, no el uso de la palabra, ay, ¿no? Pero sí va a haber muchos del oh, mierda, ¿no? Eso sí se puede utilizar, pero obviamente eso es el tipo de lenguaje tiene que ser evaluado con el tipo tiene que ser al mismo nivel el tipo de gráficos que tú estás teniendo, ¿no? Obviamente su sueño es tener este libro a la venta, un museo. Imagínate saliendo del Templo Mayor, agarres tu cómic, te lo llevas a la casa, en algún museo de ahí del Centro Nacional de las Artes, que no, del gift shop. Yeah. So Aaron is making a really valid point here. So it's a comic book in general. It's seen as entertainment. Always has been seen as an entertainment. So he is he mentions that you being putting together all this work to put this work and seeing your comic book displayed for sale in a museum where you know that it's a completely type of consumer. The person who goes to a museum versus the person who, you know, is a regular average comic book reader. It brings a different kind of readers, meaning that then the comic book that you are trying to put together, or the comic book that you are working on, it's a more like an educational type of thing. So then you are trying to, in a sense, kind of like maybe educate to your readers. Mm-hmm. You're trying to, you know, get them there. Yeah, more like an educational comic book in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's told in because I'm a big movie buff, and I like to, and I really love big historical epics. So I like the idea of doing a narrative that you are, in which the author, you know, the filmmaker, whoever, the storyteller, takes you by the hand and guides you through it. So I'm not trying to throw information. I'm trying to like introduce you to people, and then the people experience the story at the same time the reader. So the reader is experiencing the story as the people experience it. So it feels like you're watching a movie or a TV show. So it's not so, and this is why I have endnotes. All of the academic information that you would want to know is in the back, and in the front, and in the comic is it feels like you're watching a show, like you're going with them step by step by step. So I don't overload anybody with information in the story. If you want to know more about where they are, who they are, you read the endnotes. So it's like the entertainment part is the comic, and then the educational part is the endnotes. So
well, I'm gonna have a question. I have a question here. Sorry for that. Yeah. For interrupt you. So then, yes, you do then see the point that the comic still being a different kind of entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. Because then there will you see your comic as a reference to be used in schools, or do you see your comic? Do you see your comics a reference to be used in schools and academics, and say we are going to be basing our next? Okay, perfect. Okay, that was. I guess that's what
it's already being used in some classes right now. I mean, and I don't mean just like high school classes or something. I mean, there's this one of the most famous historians of this subject is a man named Matthew Restall, and he's a professor at Penn State University. And he is the chair of the Latin, you know, he's Latin history chair. And so he's, you know, PhD. I mean, this is big time, you know, academics. And he uses it in his class, not as the main text, but as one of several texts. So he's not saying, you know, study this. He's saying, use this to help with your studies. So for me, number one is entertainment. It's a great story. It's exciting. It's an adventure. Number two is the educational part. So I'm greedy. I want all both.
It's just fair, though. It's just fair, right? Because most of the comic books, I mean, when you have a comic book full loaded of entertainment, that's what it does, right? Entertains, right?
And speaking, I don't want to load you up with too much you have to translate, but speaking of the idea of like a different audiences, when I was in the gift shop of the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, there was a lot of young people. There was people, you know, parents bringing their children, you know, like there was all ages. And for me, I think we've come to a place now where comics are accepted by everybody. But what I think is happening is that people don't realize that comics can be more than just superheroes. So, but I think that's coming around because there's more and more comics that are not superheroes.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, like I would love to see my comic. And it's, when I say comic, I don't mean the floppy. I mean with a spine. You know, like a book.
Well, trade paperback.
Trade paperback. Right. Yes. So I'm happy to see that in a comic book shop, but also at an airport, at a museum, at a school, like everywhere where they don't have a problem with women's naked breasts. Anywhere I can get in there.
Ok. Le estaba preguntando, bueno, basado en tu historia, en tu pregunta, Aaron, entonces el cómic el cómic que él tiene sí es más serio. El cómic que él está tratando de hacer es un cómic histórico, un cómic de historia, un cómic basado en la historia, obviamente, de lo que nosotros tenemos. Es un cómic que lleva mucha información también, o sea, también lleva mucho. Él lo que hace, él es que te cuenta la historia de la persona, ¿verdad? Tú lo que tienes es de que él te va a contar la historia de la persona y cómo se desarrolla la persona en base a la historia y cómo va corriendo la historia, cómo la persona te está contando la historia, cómo tú vas aprendiendo. No quiere decir que la persona te va a estar tirando datos a todo tiempo, sino que la persona va a estar pasando su vida y al mismo tiempo tú vas a ir aprendiendo de la historia de esta persona, ¿verdad? Si quieres tus datos históricos en referencia al cómic, él tiene la bibliografía al final. Al final de la bibliografía tiene todos esos datos, fechas y toda esa información que está contenida al final, ¿no? Él hablando, le comentaba entonces, ¿cuál es el punto de esta historia? ¿Lo tienes tú? Yo le preguntaba, ¿tú entiendes que el cómic en efecto es de forma de entretenimiento? Y él dice, sí, en efecto, esa es una de las cosas que yo entiendo. Mi cómic es, número uno, tiene el gusto de entretener, ¿no? Y el número dos, tiene el gusto de educar, ¿no? Y obviamente con esos datos que tiene son datos educativos. Entonces yo le preguntaba, a este momento, ¿tú puedes ver tu libro, tu revista, tu cómic, como un documento que se pueda utilizar para recrear o como un documento histórico que puedas encontrar tú en algún lugar histórico? Y él menciona así, de hecho, en efecto, tiene un amigo de él, una persona que él utiliza a este momento, al día de hoy, él utiliza las páginas que él tiene como referencia en sus ponencias. El nombre de esta persona es, and please tell me if I'm saying it right or wrong, is Matthew Prestor, is that?
Restall, R-E-S-T-A-L-L, Restall.
Yeah. Matthew Restall, él es uno de los decanos de la Universidad de, ¿es it Preston, did you say?
It's Pennsylvania State University, Penn State.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Penn State, ok, Pennsylvania. Entonces, en Pensilvania es el decano de escritura en latín, él es el decano y utiliza actualmente las páginas que él tiene trabajadas para ponerlo en sus pláticas, ¿no? En sus ponencias, ¿no? En su viaje a México, y es una cosa que me dijo, en su viaje a México, cuando fue a Lina, él entró a la tienda del gift shop, a la tienda de los regalos, ¿no? Ya saben, ¿no? Y él vio a mucha gente mucha gente joven, vio mucha gente que son de todas las edades, pero lo más importante que está dándose cuenta es de que a este punto tenemos que entender que el cómic puede ser más que cómic. No, el cómic no nada más es cómic, es lo que en sus propias palabras, el cómic puede ser más que cómic, ¿no? Y tenemos que aprender a trabajarlo de esa manera para que el cómic pueda desarrollarse inclusive mucho más, ¿no? Es pensando cómo puedo hacer para encontrar, porque él tiene la idea de no tener nada más el libro, el cómic general, sino tenerlo como una novela gráfica, como un trade paperback, como un TPP, y obviamente de qué manera voy a poner este cómic en la masa de la gente, ¿no? Entonces él siempre está pensando cómo hacer ese tipo de cosas. I don't have another question. This one is reference in based on your work. Like we know that your work is digital, right? Right. The work is digital, and then of course it's really good. What's gonna be the pass, the step when you want to bring this to print? And once you get it in print or you get it in like the physical format, are you ever thinking in have some sort of like a sponsorship or have some sort of like a person who is going to be backing up all the facts and all the information that you have there, right? Because I don't know, that's something that he's asking. And if you have ever interest, you have the interest to do something like that.
Oh, absolutely, sure. And as I mentioned before, because I put the pages out one by one, I get the feedback and I make the changes. And we do have excellent consultants. I have consultants not just from Mexico for the Aztec information, but I also have some consultants in Spain for the information about the Castilians. And so and just the fact that like that professor I was just telling you about at that university, he's the last word as far as I'm concerned. If he says something is right or wrong, it's like a God telling you you're doing the right thing. So there are plenty of fact checkers, I guess, okay, out there. And then speaking to the format, once we complete 10 episodes, we'll do a volume, and we're going to have 50 episodes altogether. So it'll be 500 pages total. But that's not including the end notes. This is just the comic story pages. So as I said, every comic story page has an end note. So that'll be another 50, 75, who knows how many pages that will be. But I hope to have the first volume out next year. And I have not yet gotten a deal with a publisher. I'm talking to a couple of publishers, and I'm also thinking about crowdfunding, like Kickstarter. So yeah, it's a lot of organization, a lot of work, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm devoted.
You're ready. I can see it. En efecto, sí dice que tiene muchos consultores. O sea, tiene muchos consultores, sobre todo, uno de los mayores consultores, como lo he estado mencionando, es el público en general, ¿no? Porque obviamente cuando él pone la página, se da cuenta de que el público le viene a decir, sí, fíjate que esta página está bien, que esta página está mal, la información puede ser bien. Tiene mucha gente que le está ayudando, de la gente de Cana. Hay gente en México, obviamente, pero al mismo tiempo también tiene gente en España, que también le están dando la información del otro lado de la historia, ¿no? De la parte de los españoles, ¿no? Hasta el momento hay mucha gente, y sobre todo la gente en línea, que le da las correcciones y todo eso. Va a ser muy difícil, como lo comenta, de que pueda pasarse algo por las manos, ¿no? De que no pueda hacer algo correcto, ¿no? Tiene pensado hacer 10 episodios, ¿no? No, tiene pensado hacer 5 episodes. Is that correct?
It's well, each episode is 10 pages.
10 pages, okay. So es 10 páginas por episodio, son 5 episodios, y al fin del día tiene pensado son 500 páginas, ¿verdad? 500 pages altogether?
Right, so it'll be, so the first volumes will be 100 pages plus whatever end note pages. So, but then, did I get that right? Yeah, 100 pages, right. Okay. So it'll be 5 volumes, but then I don't know, because I don't have a publisher, I don't know what future volume, like they may do one giant single volume. I have, that's too far ahead. That's years ahead.
Have you ever heard of Studio Comics Press? As a good publisher.
Well, actually, you know, it's funny because I've been very flattered that there's been some publishers that have approached me, but the problem is I need a publisher with really good distribution that can get me into schools and museum gift shops and places that are not just comic book shops. And that's the difficulty. So I'm looking at like, for instance, educational publishers, like here in the United States, we have Scholastic Publishing.
Scholastic.
Right.
Go for Scholastic. That's the big one. Not Scholastic doors. Tiene la idea pensado de que es 100 páginas por el primer volumen, ¿no? Son 5 volúmenes, van a ser aproximadamente 500 páginas. Comenta también de que van a ser el final, las notas finales, las endnotes, que son la situación esta en la cual pues viene toda la parte de la historia con los datos, fechas y toda la cosa. Esas se incluyen, o sea que al final del día pueden ser más de 500 páginas las que van a salir al final, que eso es algo que todavía no tiene bien estructurado porque obviamente no ha hablado con ningún editor. Entonces le comenté yo, oye, pues qué onda, igual Studio Comics, ¿por qué no? ¿No? Me dice, bueno, es que también él se siente muy halagado de que ha habido muchos editores, así como yo, que se acercan a él a decirle, oye, que necesito editores que sean más de cómic. O sea, él necesita un editor o una editorial que tenga una distribución como él lo tiene pensado, meterlo obviamente a museos y a otro tipo de acercamientos. Hay en los Estados Unidos, obviamente, la más grande en este aspecto, Scholastic, que son los mismos que publican Bone, ¿no? Que publican Bone, que publican todo ese tipo de cosas. Entonces, no creo que tengan ningún problema ahí en conseguirlo. Excelente. Here.
One of the things that I don't have to worry about is because it takes so long to do the work. I'm in no hurry to line up a publisher because once I get a publisher, I get a deadline, and I don't think my deadline will work with the publisher's deadlines. So it's okay that I don't have a publisher right now. I'll get there. It'll happen.
Yeah. Excellent. As a side note, I just totally would recommend. I don't know if you have ever tried Kickstarter.
No, I haven't, but I'm very much thinking about a Kickstarter. Yeah.
Paul, I think that for the project, for the range, for the nature of your product, and for the nature of what you want to achieve as in a book, in a massive, reach every corner, reach every country, reach everywhere that you want to go, you try a Kickstarter. I mean, it's going to be.
Yeah. But I'm very much thinking about Kickstarter. The only I'm hesitant. I'm a little nervous about Kickstarter, not because I don't think it'll be successful. I agree. I think it will be successful, but Kickstarter, there's so much work involved with Kickstarter. Not just promoting it but the back end, the fulfillment a part of Kickstarter is. I have friends who have done this and they describe it as like a nightmare. It's like the amount of work that you have to do. So instead of working on my comic, I'm now working on the fulfillment for Kickstarter. So it'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah. Give me a call. We can help you out with a few of these things.
Okay.
I'm very excited. I mean, we do like right here. I don't voy a tomarme 2 minutos. Okay, 1 minuto. As a personal note, that we help a lot of editors, we help a lot of publishers, we help a lot of people that are doing work with these type of things. I'm pretty.
Well, I see you got all kinds of things behind you that show your accomplishments.
Those I just downloaded from the internet. I googled it. Oh boy, no, but like totally. If you need like a hand with like an insight of how to do certain stuff, just give me a call. I'll be more than happy to give you my 2 cents.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. Keep that in mind.
And I'll be here forever. Don't worry. I'm in Canada, so that's okay. Le estaba preguntando que cuál es su plan de todo esto, si puede encontrar algún editor en este aspecto, porque él sabe perfectamente bien que cuando tú tienes un editor, ya no puedes tomarte el tiempo que tú quieres. Ahora ya debes de entregar las cosas en ciertos tiempos y el trabajo cambia de querer hacerlo y hacerlo bien por el gusto de querer hacerlo, a ahora lo tienes que entregar a este cierto tiempo, ¿no? Entonces, como él ha trabajado mucho tiempo en este lado, no tiene ningún problema en esperarse otro ratito más para poderse conseguir un editor, ¿no? Y lo que yo le comentaba, que puede ser el mejor acercamiento para su trabajo, es la onda esta del crowdfunding, ¿no? Del Kickstarter, ¿no? Que ahora en México también se hace popular, pero obviamente acá en la cuestión de Norteamérica y Canadá es popular. Le comento de que es algo, ¿no? Que se puede hacer y obviamente puede funcionar para su proyecto y obviamente le ofrezco, también le estaba comentando que le ofrezco un poco de ayuda para que. So Aaron says, in theory, let's say that you, because we understand, he mentions that he understands that this work that you're doing is going to still take time to complete, to see its light, to see a printer or a publisher, or to see the book having on completed in its mighty completion, right? So once you have this job completed, let's pretend that you already printed, you already distributed, you already did everything, and then the job is concluded. Now, what is next? What will be the next part that you want to, what will be the next topic that you want to talk about, Paul?
Oh, you know, it's funny because I always have an idea for the next project. Every project I have ever worked on, I think about the next project. But this project is going to take me so long, you know, I can't even guess. I mean, like what I was telling you, like 5 years, 10 years, I can't guess. I don't know, because there may be another pandemic. I don't know, you know.
Oh boy.
But for me, you know, my love of Mexico, my love of history goes back to my childhood. I've loved the country and its history so much. So it may be another history that deals with Mexico in some way, but it won't be as ambitious. It's not gonna be as big. But I've always been fascinated by a story that has parallels to the Aztec Spanish thing. It's almost like a echo, and that's the story of the second Mexican Empire, Juarez and Maximilian. Another example of Europeans coming into Mexico to try and take over, but this time Mexico wins. Maximilian is executed. So it's like it's a similar story. It's the same kind of story, but with a happy ending.
Happy ending. Dice, Paul dice, él le ha gustado, la historia de México es una historia que siempre le ha gustado desde que él ha sido joven, desde que era muy joven, desde que era niño. Todavía sabe de que, quién sabe, no sabemos qué vaya a pasar con esta pandemia. Puede haber otra pandemia, puede tardar otros 5 años en completar este trabajo, pero no sabemos, ¿no? Pero al fin del día hay cosas que pueden funcionar, puede ser funcional para el siguiente episodio, porque él, cada vez de que está trabajando en un cómic, él está pensando en el siguiente. Ya estoy pensando en el siguiente, ¿qué es lo que sigue? Y posiblemente puede ser algo en referente a México, no sabe. Pero hay una historia que le gusta mucho, que es una historia como paralela a la situación que pasó en México con la conquista, que es la parte de Maximiliano, ¿no? La historia también de Maximiliano, que es una historia también que va acá como que ad hoc. La única diferencia es de que Maximiliano, pues, o sea, es como llegó él a la conquista, pero perdió, ¿no? Él fue el que perdió, entonces los mexicanos ganan, right? Entonces, es como la historia que tiene un final feliz, pero con un final feliz, ¿no?
If I can get to it, that's just an if. That's just, you know, my like a fantasy. But
yeah.
but if it happens, it won't happen till like 2030. So,
Oh, boy. Dice que eso puede ser algo que sí llegase a suceder, eso sí llegase a suceder, de que tiene la oportunidad, y si eso pasa sería por ahí del 2030.
you know, I've been interested, like one of the examples of my lifelong interest in Mexico can be seen in the one time I've been in comics for like, wow, 30, 40 years. And in the 1990s, I was a big enough star, whatever that means, to be asked to create a new superhero for DC Comics. And so this is a great privilege because it's a childhood dream come true. I get to create a new superhero for DC. So what I did is I had to work with a writer on this. So we split the character in half. He got to do the father's side of the family and like what that story was. And I got to do his mother's side of the story and what that family was. So of course, my idea was that this character was half Mexica from Tenochtitlan, and he was a time traveler. So I created this comic called Chronos, and it's a series. You can get it online at Comixology. But the sad part about it was that the first story arc wasn't about Mexico. We were going to do that for the second year, and the comic got canceled before we could go to Tenochtitlan and deal with his mother's family. And it was like,
yeah.
very disappointing.
Oh, no. Dice que está comentando de que en una ocasión, él trabajando en este tipo de cosas por ahí de los 90s, él considerado con trabajo con otro artista, con otro escritor, le ha considerado más como un artista de nivel. Tuvo la gran oportunidad con DC Comics de crear un superhéroe, ¿no? Le dieron la oportunidad, dieron la oportunidad de superhéroe. Y él trabajó junto con un amigo, la mitad de la mitad, él trabajó la mitad de la historia con la parte de este superhéroe, que él trabajó la parte del padre. El padre era la mitad, era medio mexica, el personaje que él creó junto con este otro escritor, que fuera mexica, la mitad de su nacionalidad, y la otra mitad de que era como un viajero en el espacio, no, un viajero del tiempo, perdón, viajero del tiempo. El cómic que él creó se llamó Cronos, ¿no? Y este cómic de Cronos, by the way, I think I have seen it. So.
Okay.
Now I know you, Paul.
Okay.
Este cómic de Cronos es un cómic que salió publicado por DC y obviamente fue cancelado en el número 6. Was number 6? It was canceled?
Oh, actually after, I think it was 12 issues. So it ran for a
12,
whole year.
yes.
But
Yeah.
But then the second year is when we were going to have him go and visit Tenochtitlan, and you know, now I'm thinking that may have been for the best, because we didn't have the information we have now about archaeology, about like for instance, I didn't have my friends at the museum sending me archaeological drawings. So
right.
Maybe it's okay that we didn't do
it. Que corrió por todo un año este título de Cronos, y se canceló al año, pero obviamente una de las partes, la segunda parte de la historia, como ese personaje de DC era mexica, obviamente en la segunda temporada de este cómic, ya iban a visitar México, iban a tener referencias de México, que ahorita con todas las referencias que tiene sería otra cuestión diferente.
But that story is still waiting to be told, and I hope that actually, you know what, if that earlier question about what do I want to do next, I would like to finish the story of Cronos.
Finish Cronos.
Yeah.
But that is still under DC, eh?
Yes, but you know, now with the success of all this Latinx material, you know, like the movies that are coming out, the demand. There's a great demand for this kind of material. So I think DC, if I approach them with, I have a Mexican writer in mind to help me pitch a new story, because when the story was created in 1990, it was, you know, two white guys doing it. So I want to, so like the writer has left comics, he's gone. So we don't have to worry about him. So if I'm going to bring in a new writer, I'm going to bring in a Mexican writer to help me with this story. And so I think that if, you know, if we wrote a good pitch, I think DC might go for it. They're looking for
give me another 12 inches. Just give me another 12 inches. That's it. It needs finished.
That's right. That's all. That's all.
That's it. Le digo que lo único que necesita, porque él dice que el que posiblemente sería ahora, respondiéndote la pregunta, podría ser muy buena la idea de ahora empezar a trabajar en la segunda parte de Cronos, que nunca salió. Dice, por la onda del escritor no hay ningún problema, pero pues obviamente hay que buscar, tiene en mente un escritor latino. Dice, porque ahorita hay mucha demanda en referencia a este tipo de títulos, ¿no? De títulos de referencia a la conquista y ese tipo, bueno, referencia a esto, puede ser muy bueno de que lo puedan echar adelante. Excelente. Excellent. Aaron is asking the following. It's a couple of really good questions, actually. I told him that this is the last couple of questions because I gotta go home, but that's okay. You know what? This is getting too good. I cannot leave. It's getting too good. You know, it's getting too good. Question number one. It's he read something about and I'm sorry if I mispronounce it because I'm not aware because I don't know exactly what it is. Helioscope.
Helioscope Studio. That's the studio that I am with. It's about 20 other comic book artists. It's a collective. Awesome. So it's not like an official business. It's just a group of artists sharing a space.
Okay. And bueno, está diciendo que Helioscope es como un grupo, un colectivo, ¿no? De artistas en el que él está incluido. Él y otros aproximadamente otros 20 artistas se reúnen como un estudio donde trabajan para este tipo de obras, ¿no? Y the next question around will be, the next question, Paul, will be 4 comics that you totally recommend. Says that these ones, they're the ones that I vouch for this one to be a good read.
Oh my. Oh, that is
or at least we recommend them.
Oh, it's very difficult.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness. It's, oh my goodness. I can't think of anything off. I mean, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of it's like older stuff, you know, that's there's you know, there is a book I would recommend called March. You know this? It's the story of John Lewis. He was a civil rights organizer in the United States in the 1960s, and he helped dismantle the US's version of apartheid, you know, the segregation, you know, where black and white people had to go to different restaurants and different movie theaters and stuff. And so it's a biography of this civil rights leader, and it's really well done. And it also shows how you can do historical subjects and biographical subjects in a comic book form, and for it to be, you know, taken seriously, because it's won, you know, many awards, and the New York Times has reviewed it and stuff like that. So that's a particularly good thing. But as far as that, I'll have to send you an email. I'll have to think about it. Write down.
Think about it. And yeah. I'll do it. Yeah. I have seen this book, March. That's right. That's full on. Nate Powell. That's the illustrator, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful
that's
art.
Right.
Nate
That's
Powell.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really like, I've been looking at books like that because it relates to the work that I'm doing. Like, for instance, you know, Sulu from Star Trek, George Takei. He he wrote a comic book about his experiences in the Japanese camps in the US during World War II.
Wow.
And it's powerful. And it shows that comics can be, you know, a very powerful tool for learning, you know, that it's not just entertainment. So I forget the name of George Takei's book. Anyway, I'll send you, I'll think about it and send it to you.
Dice que no se acuerda de ahorita de ninguno, de uno que menciona, uno de los libros que menciona muy, muy bueno. Es uno que se llama March, que es como marzo, en el mes, como el mes de marzo, ¿no? Este es un libro, lo pueden encontrar, referencia lo pueden encontrar en Amazon. Este libro es de un dibujante, bueno, es un autor muy, muy bueno, Nate Powell, es uno de los ilustradores también muy, muy buenos, tiene otros trabajos que ha hecho en referencia a eso, que es uno de los que él recomienda. Hay otro que también recomienda que es uno que dibujó, uno que escribió George Takei en referencia a su trabajo también. También es muy, muy bueno, pero son biografías, son como diferentes tipos de acercamiento del cómic a diferentes tipos de tópicos que van más allá del entretenimiento, que no nada más son entretenimiento, que van más allá del entretenimiento. Que obviamente el cómic puede ser eso, pero puede ser más todavía. Well, Paul, he was saying that he's pretty grateful that there's in the last little while he's been had the opportunity. I don't have the opportunity to talk to many authors, writers, publishers, people around that they are immersed on this comic book universe, especially for the this the spoken art of comics, right? And it's really enjoyable to talk to people from all over the world, right? People that they are in Mexico, Spain, of course, the United States, here in Canada, and we gotta thank Zoom for these type of things, but especially we're gonna thank you. Yeah, it's I gotta thank you for your time and of course the opportunity to be here, and me personally. In a personal title, well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to practice my translation thingy back and forth. Number two, thank you for letting me know more about what you're doing. But like, this is incredible, the approach that you're taking in this type of things. I mean, it's fantastic that you are going through that venue. It's great that you have all the support that you're having from there. I know that you are going to do fantastic. I wish you the best of the lucks.
Thank you.
If you need any kind of reference, I'm another Mexican sitting down here in Ontario, Canada, by Kitchener-Waterloo, that is not that far from Toronto, so not that far from it. Okay. We're pretty much immersed here in the comic book industry from coast to coast here in Canada. So then I'll be super happy to see what you're doing. I will be following, and of course keep contact on these type of things, because this is the benefits of what Zoom is giving us, but especially this is the benefits of our own putting this together and bringing authors together and bringing people together, and especially this. I think this is big, and this is great what he's doing on that regard, because it's giving us a different view for all the artists and all the writers in different places.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I have to give a shout out to my collaborators on this project. My wife is also my editor. She was an editor in comics for many years. She worked at Dark Horse Comics as an editor. And so she is a great guiding force for me. And then my co-artist, David Hahn, who is, I've been wanting to work with him forever. And when I first started seriously thinking about this project, I immediately thought of him because he has this illustration style. See, the way it works is I send him little sketches, like little thumbnails, like little stick figures, and the script. And then he does the line drawing, the pencil and ink. And then I go in and do the colors. But his line drawing has this nice open quality, a very open line quality, almost like a coloring book. And it really reminds me of the kind of like coloring book line style that's in a codex. It has this really, nice, simple. There's not a lot of hatching and drawing and stuff like that. It's a beautiful style. And as I thought about this story, I thought about it in his style. And moving forward, working with him, I now think about all the scenes, how he would draw it, and I work with him on the compositions and the characters and all that stuff. And so I have to give, like, I'm 1/3. Another third is David. Another third is Anina. And so it's really a great team effort. And I just really wanted to make sure that I snuck in their names, because I tend to start babbling about my research or about something or another. And I forget to give the important recognition, that the recognition that's important, that they deserve.
Menciona también de que él está muy agradecido con todos, sobre todo está muy agradecido por la oportunidad, y está muy agradecido también de que tiene un equipo detrás de él que le está apoyando a todo tiempo en referencia a, no nada más a la búsqueda de la información, pero obviamente con sus artistas, ¿no? Su esposa, que también es su editor, la esposa de él, que es también su editora, ella fue editora también para Dark Horse en algún tiempo, entonces ella es con que se ayuda mucho, así mismo como con David Hahn, que es el artista con el que está trabajando. O sea, él es nada más una tercera parte de todo ese núcleo que funciona. Dice, pero obviamente tengo que decir esta información ahorita en este momento, antes de que se me olvide y ya no lo pueda yo decir. Entonces me da gusto mencionarlo ahorita de antemano, y obviamente, bueno, hacerlos mención para que estén también, porque ellos son también parte primordial de este trabajo que se hace, ¿verdad?
And the best part of my collaborators is that, one, I'm married to one of them, so she's not going anywhere. And the second one is my best friend for decades. So he's not going anywhere. So
you're set. You're set.
And so they have to put up with me for many years to come.
Oh boy. Dice que la cosa más interesante, dice, lo bueno es de que mi editor es mi esposa y no va a ningún lado. Ahí está. Y el artista es mi mejor amigo, y dice, también está ahí, entonces no se va a ir a ningún lado. Dice, entonces ahorita lo único que me queda es trabajar y echarle las ganas.
It's not like when I was doing Chronos, the writer walked away, and because the writer left, the series was canceled. So I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah. Chronos. I gotta find those books.
Yeah, and I wish there was more Mexican content in the stories that exist, but hopefully we'll return to that.
Oh, I'll be looking for it. I'll be looking for it. That's awesome. Paul, is there anything else that you like to add at the end?
Actually, just making sure that my wonderful collaborators are mentioned, and you can read our series for free. It's for free on our website, bigredhair.com. So, and there's no paywall. You don't have to subscribe. Nothing. So just read it.
Just read it and enjoy.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, on my end, thank you very much, Paul. I do really appreciate your time. Like I said, thank you for the opportunity to be here talking to two amazing people. Aaron, gracias otra vez por la oportunidad de tenerme aquí. Espero que haya hecho un trabajo adecuado. No es mi onda, esta no es de traducción. My job is not like straight up translator. I'm trying. I'm doing the adaptation, like it's I gotta put the A every time that I finish a phrase, so accurate.
If Aaron has any issues with what I said, I will blame you, Alfonso.
Yes, dice que si Aaron tienes algún problema de lo que él dice, que él me va a echar la culpa a mí porque yo soy el traductor. I do personally want to apologize if I translate or if I miss something in between what Paul was saying and what I was expecting. You can leave it on the comments. We can send it back to Paul, right?
Okay.
Aaron, no? We can, make sure that there is, if I miss something in between. I was taking my notes, so I learned to take my notes as I was talking. I was listening to this conversation. But again, thank you very much for the time, and thank you for the opportunity. It's awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks very much.
Okay, Paul. Thank you.
Gracias, Paul.
Nice to
Gracias,
meet you.
Alfonso.
Right?
Nos vemos, Aaron.